Hey, everybody, and welcome again to Wish You Were Beer, a weekly live beer review show where we check in new beer, have beers we have had, some we haven't had, review them, go through some history on the brewery, the brewers, the beer itself, a little bit of everything. If you would do me a favor and go down into the About section, there's a like, subscribe, and share button. I would greatly appreciate it if you hit all three of those. You can also find our Instagram account down there, as well as all of our Untappd handles. All our individual handles as well as the show's handle, so you can see how much beer we drink when we're not on YouTube, which is way more than when we're on YouTube.
You checked in one pretty early the other day, I want to say.
I checked in an early beer this morning, but it's because I forgot to check it in last night. But every time I do that, I'm like, God, I hope no one follows me. That looks terrible.
So I have people who do call me out on it, and they go, wow, 10 a.m., huh, Tiffany? Thought you were in a meeting. And I'm like, it's from yesterday. I'm sorry.
I promise.
Sure.
Yeah, sure.
Meetings are rough.
Also, if you log into your YouTube account, you can actually comment along with us. So if you weren't lucky enough to get free verse where you're at, make sure you log in, tell us what beer you are having, follow along in the comment section, and make fun of Phil. I assume that's really the only reason we have a comment section.
Yeah. Also, we're doing free verse tonight. I had no idea based on what we all look like.
So
I wonder what the score will be.
Yeah. Wait, what brewery are we drinking from?
I have no idea. It's weird.
I just love the idea you don't follow me on Twitter. You didn't know we were doing this tonight, and that's upsetting, Phil.
Thought we were friends.
Oh, with that being said, I'm Daniel. This is Tiffany, and the beautiful bearded man, as always, is Phil. And you're still in a garage.
Yep, I haven't left the garage. That's where I live now. Yeah,
that makes sense. Is this your last week in the garage?
This will be my last episode in the garage. Are you guys sad? Are you sad to hear that?
No, I'm excited for you.
Yeah.
Let's see. Where will I be next week? I think I'll be in Colorado for next week's episode.
Nice.
I'm going to be in Boulder. So okay. I'm gonna hit up. They've got a lot of our beer drop breweries out there.
They do.
So.
Yeah. And fun fact: for the second year in a row, Boulder got like the #1 city to live in, or something like that. That was
a while back. It was like #1 city to live in.
No, but it was second year in a row.
I mean, it's a pretty great city. It's no Telluride.
No, nothing is. Are you gonna go to Telluride?
Oh, I'm going to Telluride.
Yeah,
I would skip Telluride. I'm going to die there. I'm going to go, die, and then I'll be good to go.
I more so meant the brewery, not just the city.
Oh.
So, I mean, you got to make a visit if you're that close, I would assume.
We need more.
I got to beg for a job, you guys. I've already talked to him about it. I don't think he took me seriously, though, when I kept asking.
No. I think due to the barrage of emails, I think he's beginning to take you seriously, though.
It has been a lot.
Yeah, you forgot to untag all in that email, so we can follow him along, having a blast.
Thanks for CCing me on all those emails, because I don't get enough of them.
Well, I apologize for the nudes. I went a whole weird direction. I really was working it.
You can ever apologize for. Yesterday was National Nude Day, so
it was.
Oh.
Yeah, really let me down there.
Celebrated without knowing.
Every day.
All right.
Wait, so Phil, you have a Virginia Beer shirt as well?
Of course. Why would I not have a Virginia Beer shirt when we all went?
Oh, did
to the
we?
Virginia Beer? We did. Look at that photo.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. You notice, though, however, Tiffany always puts herself closest to the camera?
No, it's because everyone's like, Tiffany, you take the photo. And I'm like, my arms are so short. So that's as far away as I can make it. I am not a tall person, so I apologize.
That is fantastic.
I'm 5'4", so that's it. That's what you get.
Yeah, so for those of you who don't follow us on all of our different social medias, we are doing a Virginia Beer Company beer this week. We are doing a beer called Free Verse, which is an IPA. Virginia Beer Company is close to Tiffany and I, so it is probably where we spend the majority of our beer drinking time.
It's not a problem because we're not admitting it as a problem, and that's step one, I've been told.
Right, sure. Yeah, whatever makes it easier. But that being said, I'm excited about both this show and this beer because I do have a long history, so to speak, with Virginia Beer Company. And we actually have a very special guest tonight.
We do.
It is.
Gosh, I gotta start following you on Twitter.
You're supposed to be handling all this shit too. That's terrifying. So we actually have one of the co-founders of Virginia Beer Company. His name is Robby Willey. I've known Robby for a few years now, and I reached out to him via email, and he said, "Sure, I have nothing better to do than to listen to y'all talk about my beer." So I'm excited.
I'm thrilled.
Why don't we bring him in?
All right, let's bring him in. Robby, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me, and thank you for giving me an excuse to drink beer on a Thursday evening because sometimes it's called work, but when I get home, sometimes it's just for pleasure. And this is going to be a very tasty Freeverse, I have no doubt. So thank you for the opportunity.
Anytime, man. I always think about that with brewers or people that own breweries. Like, is there ever a time where you go home and you don't drink a beer?
I go through phases. So I'm a big fan of bourbon as well.
Okay.
Whiskey and bourbon. And we, as you know, we release our anniversary beer every year, Waypost, which is an imperial stout that is aged in spirits barrels. And it always has a bourbon barrel aged variant. We always try to come up with creative barrels, Scotch cask, maple syrup, vanilla bean barrels, cherry cordial, brandy, etc. But there's always a bourbon barrel. And so it's another excuse for me to say, oh, it's research. I have to help find the best possible barrel. What bourbon could we possibly use next year? I will make that a year-long pledge to find the best barrel. So long story short, my wife will tell you that the top shelf of our fridge is full of beers, both ours, other beers from Williamsburg, beers from all over the country. People love to give us beers when they come through, and which is great. We always trade beers. So plenty of beers here at home as well as at work. But I will find through phases, especially during the summer, I get into more of a cocktail mode, a nightcap, with a nice bourbon or a scotch. And then as we get into the colder months, and it probably should be the opposite, but it's like it's hot out, so I want less liquid when I get home. It's just like a little splash or something. And then when it gets colder out, it's like, all right, now I can add a couple ounces back to my nightly routine.
I dig it. Yeah. So that's always so the bourbon barrel stuff always interesting to me as well because I'm also a big bourbon fan. Like that was like a kind of like my family. That's what they drank was bourbon, usually neat as well. So I like a good bourbon, which is why I like all the Waypost variations as well.
Did they cut out? Or
What?
I cut out?
You're there, Phil.
Yeah, we can see you, Phil, and hear you.
I couldn't hear you at all, so I was like, I don't know which one of us is out. Sorry.
Oh, you're welcome.
I'm in a garage. Continue.
But you're wearing a gorgeous shirt in a garage, so you still look fantastic.
Thank you. No pants though, so I've got everything I need. It's so hot here.
For all of the many bads the pandemic gave us, at least it gave us the ability to have conversations with no pants on and not offend those around us.
True story.
I do have to, if we're going to talk about the shirt for just a second, I do have to applaud the comfort of the shirt.
Yeah.
Because I hate when I go to a brewery or anywhere and I look up and I'm like, I really want a shirt from here, and you just see it and you touch it and you go, oh, I don't want this shirt.
Yeah, it is like
I can wear this all the time.
Oh, I love this shirt. I wear it all the time.
Yeah, I don't know.
You've had the best of Virginia Beer Company on already, and that is not a humble brag about myself. That is a reference to Lucy Legaspi, our operations manager, and Lucy has been the prime architect of all of our merchandise to date over the past 5 years. So in terms of Next Level, the shirt, who makes the actual shirt itself, and then Parkway Print Shop, who actually prints the logos on the shirts, a local print company. That's all Lucy. Lucy encouraged us to go high end when it came to shirts, because you want shirts you can live in, right? Because you want people to be seeing them as often as possible. So she crushed it on that one. So Next Level has been our shirt provider. So hopefully a good plug for us and for you guys, maybe a future sponsor.
Yeah.
Next Level.
That's not a bad idea. We actually just made one shirt. Phil sent me one shirt. And he was like, I just wanted to see what it looked like. And it was kind of a medium.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't small. So Phil tried it on, it didn't fit, sent it to us. I tried it on. I was like, I kind of feel like I'm trying now. Like, nah, I'm not interested.
Oh, man, you even offer it to me?
It's not going to fit you. That didn't come out right. It's not going to fit because of different. Yes, I was wondering we were going to get to use that one.
I haven't had to use that one in a while.
I applaud the professional over it. Like someone knew there was going to be a mute button there. I assumed it would be used on me first, but credit to Daniel. The first one to Daniel.
I made that slide specifically because I knew Daniel would start saying stuff that I needed to cut out.
Yeah, it's the thing. Okay, hold on. Pause really fast. Usually we drink the beer at the end. We've all had this beer and we've already all rated it. Why don't we drink this beer while we're talking?
Yes.
Which beer are we talking about tonight?
Freeverse.
We're talking about Freeverse.
It's Freeverse. Yes, Freeverse.
Yeah, I don't know if you've had it. No.
It's a brand new beer we're trying out. We're hoping it's sick.
Do you have that as a trivia question?
I always what?
Any like the history of Freeverse?
No, so I actually kept that one out on purpose so that we could just talk about the beer itself without getting into the history and fact stuff.
You already have one.
But actually, I joke about this beer like in a lovingly way in the sense that this is like one of y'all's first beers. Like this is like a first try beer, and it's amazing, which is crazy to me. Because I go to some places and I have like one or two of their standard beers or their flagship beers, and I'm like, that's a flagship beer. I get it. You need a wheat, you need an IPA, you need this. But this one is phenomenal.
Yes. It's rare that the first beer and its originalness, I guess, is still being produced year after year.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe you've tweaked it, but I don't remember it tasting different.
So I will say, so credit goes to our brewmaster, Jonathan. So Jonathan's been with us since before day one. So, Chris and I, my business partner and I met at William & Mary, and then worked in different fields that had nothing to do with beer, but we found ourselves consuming an exceptional amount of beer and realized that we needed a career to cover the amount of beer that we were consuming. So, working at a brewery certainly helps to, when you take your work home with you, no one can yell at you for it. So, Jonathan was a teacher, an English teacher actually, who fell in love with home brewing, and he always joked that the kids didn't drive him to drink, but they drove him to find another career path. So he went from teaching to home brewing to volunteering at Jackalope Brewing in Nashville, Tennessee, as Jackalope was getting open, and he kind of just was like, I'm an avid home brewer. I'd love to just learn on the go. Do you need some free help? And he worked there volunteering for a little while, and then flipped that into an actual career at Sweetwater Brewing in Atlanta. So he went from like smallest scale at the homebrew side to, production, moderate scale to, Sweetwater brewing on like a 330 barrel system, which is ginormous. I mean, to put it in contrast, like we have a 30 barrel system, which is large for our size and our age. He was brewing on a 330 barrel system. So, I mean, he ramped up quickly, but that gave him a lot of different skill sets to be able to kind of think about recipe development and how to brew small batch beers on our 5 barrel system, how to brew larger scale beers on our 30 barrel system. And he was home brewing a recipe akin to Freeverse, basically, early on when we first met him. And so when he came to Williamsburg, we were like, we got to have a flagship IPA. It's got to be a great IPA. It was just a little before the New England IPA craze set in. So the big hazies weren't necessarily at the full scale they are now, back in 2014, 2015, when we were working on test batches. But he was definitely interested in a hazier IPA, something that it's not quite an East Coast, West Coast split, but the reason he wanted to call it Freeverse, it was his name as well, is because it kind of goes off script, right? It's not a traditional East Coast, it's not a traditional West Coast. It's something somewhat in between, based on the types of hops we use and the dry hop ratio and what goes into the grain bill. So it's a nice fusion. It's got a nice haze to it. It's got some bite, got some of that West Coast bite, but it's still got a ton of that East Coast juiciness and fruity aroma and flavor. And to answer your question about like the recipe, so like the beer has been with us since before we opened. And I think we perhaps had a little unintentional hubris before we opened, because we were like, let's launch with 4 flagship beers. We called them flagship, even though we had not sold a single drop of beer, right? 4 beers, mainstays, flagships.
Right.
These are our beers. We've made $0 in the industry so far, but let's have 4 beers we think are permanent mainstays. And to be fair, Freeverse has held its own. The original batch of Freeverse, though, I will remember day one, March 26, 2016. It was a great beer. What we ended up doing, though, was basically doubling the dry hop after the first couple batches after we opened. It tasted, it still had the same ABV gravity. It tasted more like a tropical pale ale. Wasn't quite as hazy and just didn't have quite the same like oomph that we expected it to. And when you're scaling up from the homebrew side to a production side, anyone will tell you, anyone who's worked on the production side will tell you it's not a 1-to-1 ratio, right? It's not just simple math. Every system's different, the timing's different, temperature control is different, everything is different. So even with us test batching a few times before we opened, there was still a few needs to tweak the beer. But long story short, after month 2, the free verse recipe that we finalized in month 2 of being open is the free verse recipe that we're drinking out of these cans right now. So it's been the exact same recipe since month 2 of 2016. So it's got
and that's the crazy part.
I think you can now say it's a flagship beer finally 5 years later.
Right? Yeah. It's like, now it's a flagship beer. We're still serving it, so it has to be.
Now, are any of the other 3 still kind of in the menu anywhere?
It's a great question. So we so 3 of the 4 have retained their position on our flagship lineup. So Saving Daylight. Yeah, so we launched with the 4. We had Saving Daylight, a citrus wheat ale with grapefruit and orange peel and some whole cone Centennial hops. We had Rhenish Rye, which was a dry hopped amber ale with a little bit of rye malt added. And then we had Elbow Patches, our oatmeal stout, which is just a super smooth traditional oatmeal stout. It's my personal favorite of our flagship beers. It's our most award-winning beer, which is funny because it's also our simplest recipe. And I shouldn't use the word simple because that kind of dumbs it down, but I think Jonathan would agree it's the most straightforward recipe probably that he has helped create and that we brew on a regular basis. But it hits every single check mark for an oatmeal stout. So Elbow Patches, still a flagship. Saving Daylight, still a flagship. Rhenish Rye, beloved by many, including my father, who very proud that his son helped open a brewery. Still wanted to disavow me once I just told him that Rhenish Rye would no longer be available. And he loves that beer. And it was a great beer, but it was super complex. And talk about what you learn in the early days of opening a brewery, both from a recipe standpoint and a marketing standpoint. Rhenish Rye was hard to pronounce. It was Wernish, and Rhenish was a reference to William & Mary, which has the Christopher Wren building, second oldest college in the United States behind Harvard. So it was a nod to William & Mary. It was a green and gold can, which are the colors of William & Mary. People could not pronounce Rhenish. The word didn't make sense to anybody.
It has not made sense this whole time to me. So I'm glad you're explaining.
And it had some double meanings too. But again, if you weren't a fan of basically the dictionary or William & Mary, you were not going to look at that word and get it. And we found that if people were uncomfortable pronouncing a word, they were not as likely to order it. And it's one thing at the brewery when a staff member can say, well, let me walk you through it. But when you're at a bar or a restaurant and you don't feel like saying something and having someone correct you, you're not going to order it. You're going to move on to the next option.
Good point. You're like, I would like this.
Yeah. The rye, the W rye.
Yeah.
And then we also have found, and since you guys, you all are Untappd users, we try to provide really robust descriptions for most of our beers. And we actually have a brand new website that has been produced by a company called Craft Peak. And it's a craft beer focused website developer. And if you go to our beer archive, we list literally all of the ingredients and all the beers. We tell people if it's vegan friendly or not. We try to be very transparent about what's in our beers. So providing the information, really helpful, really useful. I think transparency is really important in this industry. But if you have to spend more than 10, 15 seconds explaining a beer to somebody, they can read on it on their own and learn about it at their leisure. But if you have to spend more than 15, 20 seconds explaining the beer to somebody, you're going to lose interest and they're going to move on to the next beer. And Rhenish Rye being a dry hopped amber ale, explaining the dry hops and trying to convince people it didn't mean bitter, but then also explaining why the rye malt made it a little spicy, but then explaining that spice is not necessarily the same as like jalapenos. Yeah. There was a lot going on, and it was too much for people to give it the bandwidth that it needed to be explained and enjoyed. So,
but it was such a good beer.
Right.
I'm with your dad on that.
Right. I was like, your dad and I are friends now,
we're buddies
because the Rhenish Rye was. I was sad when it was gone. It was a solid beer.
It's made 2 comebacks. We did have sleeved cans that we still had that we weren't going to waste. So we did bring it back twice over the past 2 years. And then we hope to maybe do some 16-ounce can versions of it. We did a few firkins of Rhenish Rye back in the day that were infused with lemon juice. Nice. And I swear it tasted like alcoholic iced tea. It was so good, the flavors combined. So I really want to do a canned version with lemon added to just kind of have that, like it's not a malt beverage, it's a beer that still tastes like iced tea. I think it was pretty cool. And Rhenish Rye has since been replaced with Liquid Escape, which is a lemongrass ale with Australian sea salt. And it's actually a blend of a sour beer and a non-sour beer. So it's like kind of your starter sour, mildly tart, super refreshing. My business partner calls it the Gatorade of beers. I mean, that salt on the back end makes it really clean finishing, and you can it's a summer crusher. You know, mow the lawn, drink 4 of them, 4.4%. Come back and drink 2 more, finish the 6-pack.
It is a very tasty.
Yeah, I was gonna say 6-pack at 4.4. Let's not kid ourselves. We do some drinking.
Yeah, you get 4 during the mowing and 2 to wind down from the
correct.
Mowing. Yeah,
correct.
And
or
then
2 outside to pretend you're still mowing just to be outside.
Exactly.
No.
or you can do what I do on a summer Saturday. Just pour the 6-pack into a pitcher. And then at that point, it's basically, you don't know how many beers it is. It's just a pitcher. It's a pitcher of liquid, and you got to get through the pitcher. You don't want to be wasteful.
No one gets mad when you have a pitcher of iced tea. What's the difference?
Exactly. And if you came home with a growler, no one would yell at you for finishing the growler, I assume.
Thank you.
Yeah.
If they do, you're in the wrong house.
Exactly.
Actually, if I finish the growler, I may be in the wrong house. That's
no, and the reason why is that I didn't get any.
Right, yeah.
That's fair. That's fair.
Right.
It's fine.
And that's why we offer half-price fills on Wednesdays and Sundays, so 1 for each. Yeah.
You do. It's one of my favorites. All right. Now that you've answered all my trivia questions, let's at least go through them for continuity's sake.
So hopefully everyone was listening.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, that is the test.
I know Vero was.
For those of you who are logged into YouTube, you can comment along and you can play trivia with us and you can answer in the comment section.
And Vero's likes to think she's going to get all of them. Vero's a longtime fan here.
Yes.
She was on our show last week for the Argentinian beer that we had because she's Argentinian. So
she's what?
And I've got to give her a quick shout out because I've been enjoying the interaction on Twitter with Vero, and she had a nice back and forth. I learned about what I think the Argentinian Independence Day was through Twitter through her, and then also obviously Argentina had a really good showing in football recently, and so hopefully she's celebrating. I know not with Freebirds quite yet because she's waiting for it to hit the taproom website, but with a couple of our beers available in New York. So shout out to Vero for sure.
There we go. All right, let's do some trivia.
Let's do it.
I know. I'm going to make it happen for her. Don't worry. I manage all of our social media, so I know exactly who's asking for what, and I'm going to make it happen for her.
All right. So what is Virginia Beer Company's mantra? Which, if you have the can, it is on it. So I know it. Phil probably knows it. Tiffany knows it.
For the record, when I do trivia, I don't give people it's on the can. That has to be on your own goodwill of
I know.
Oh, let me use my head for a second and look at the can. You're like literally giving these answers away.
I'm going to go with B.
I give you trivia for 1 week.
I'm going to go with B is what I'm going to go with.
Okay. Good idea.
But I think the more important question is where does the beer, people, and purpose come from, Robby?
Yeah, so I'm actually enjoying reading all these potential mantras because as we're constantly thinking about the brand and the identity, some of these could come into play at some point, whether it's in a marketing campaign or a future brand refocus. So we'll certainly give credit where it's due if we put any of these into work in the future.
He brewed for us.
Well, that's funny because isn't that somebody else's? Isn't that I think that's why we put it in there because that's another brewery.
It sounds familiar. There's Brewed for Us. That one sounds familiar.
I can't remember who it is, but I remember we joked about it. Me and Lucy were talking about it, and I was like, "That's kind of selfish."
It is.
Oh, never mind. It's for us. I apologize.
I can get the reference in the sense of like they're like we're brewing what we like. You should like it too. It's what we like. So there's certainly some that's a lot of confidence going into it. And I guess if you're trying to sell liquid you're creating in your brewery, you should be confident. But we tend to be a little more subtle with our pitches. So the background for Beer People Purpose. So it was not a day one mantra. We weren't canning on day one. Certainly we had marketing in terms of our shirts and what we were showing on social media. Once we started canning, we realized that we really needed not a tagline, but something that we could explain the basis for the company to people, right? So it was like, why did we found the company? Why Williamsburg? Why are we doing what we're doing? Why are we brewing what we're brewing? And so it was a roundtable. One of the things that we're really proud of is the longevity of our core, our management team. When Chris and I left corporate America behind, one of the things we said was, let's take the best parts of corporate America and try to apply that to a small business in the brewing industry. So we've tried to, hire as corporations do, in the sense of formal interviews and getting to know people and making sure we're very transparent about expectations, offering regular review cycles, opportunities for raises and bonuses, and hopefully progress so that we can keep and retain talent. So Lucy, has been with us since day one as our taproom manager and business developer, and she's getting ready to move into a new role as operations manager. So we're excited for her to take on that new challenge. Michael Rhodes has been with us since day one as an assistant taproom manager and kind of help with marketing and social media. And he told us a few years ago he really wanted to help create a sales team for the brewery, and he did. Now he's our director of sales with 2 people under him. Jonathan, brewmaster, went from being a team of 1 with Chris and I helping him in the brew house a little bit to now having a production team of I want to say 4. So the brewery has grown. The management staff has done a great job taking on more responsibility. And what Chris and I have said is, we're smart enough to know we're not always the smartest people in the room, if ever. So long story short, we try to hold annual management retreats where the management team gets together away from the brewery if possible, and talks through what's going well, what do we need to focus on, what are the big challenges, what are the big opportunities, and part of that was groupthink on what makes the brewery tick. We're community focused. The whole idea was that we started in Williamsburg, we met in Williamsburg. How do we get back to Williamsburg? So, it's a brewery, right? Beer, that's the core of the business. And you can do a lot with beer. Beer is fun. Brewing is work. Beer is fun, and you hope that beer is engaging, and it gives the opportunity to create a platform because people are coming in for what we say is beers and cheers. And if you can get them in front of nonprofits, if you can use it to plant your flag for a certain message, to help the community, then you're enjoying beers, but you're also learning something, you're supporting something. So, the purpose part of it is the giving back, the getting involved, and then the people, right? It's like what makes the brewery successful here in Williamsburg is definitely not necessarily the beer. I mean, we're really proud of the liquid, obviously, in the space, but people come in because they want to hang out with our staff. They want to hang out with their friends. Our social club, as you know, is our full-time friend social club. And the idea is you're coming to the brewery because you enjoy the liquid and you enjoy the atmosphere, but you really want to spend time with the people with whom you are actually drinking the beer with, right? It's the whole German beer garden mentality of the people sitting around you are your neighbors, and you can get to know them and really try to, grow your community. So long story short, beer, people, purpose, we feel like those are the 3 core tenets. If we can't check at least 2 of those boxes for any decision we make, then it's not a Virginia Beer Company decision. So the idea is that should be right there, front and center on all of our cans. We started adding it to more of our glassware. We started adding it to more of our merchandise. It's really, taken hold as something that wasn't just a management decision, but I think the whole team bleeds it, and it's a big part of what we do and what we brew.
Yeah, and I think that's a great way to put it in regards to, especially in the tap room when you're talking about people, because we spend a lot of time there. There's literally people that I know only from that tap room, and I don't know them anywhere else. Right. But as soon as I roll in, we're sitting like there friends. With them. We're talking to them. We're talking to their kids. We're petting their dog, like whatever. Right. Like we've known each other for 20 years.
Well, so quick side story. When we were up in Pennsylvania, we had driven how many hours coming back? We were exhausted, and we ended up stopping at BBC on the way home, and we're like, okay, we have a moment to relax, and we're like, we feel like we're home without actually getting home and dealing with all the things we need to deal with once we get home. BBC is 100%.
It was a safe place for us to clear our head. It was ridiculous because honestly, I thought Tiffany was going to shoot it down because we had been in the car for 11 hours and we're so close to home. And I was like, I'm going to Virginia Beer Company. And she's like, yes, let's get a beer.
I was like, I will not shoot this down at all. And it was funny because every time we go and we're 11 hours in the car does not make a good looking couple. So we roll in and we look neat. And of course, every time we go there, we see someone we know. And, everyone's like, oh, hey. We're just like, oh, hey. Just let me get a beer. Give me a minute.
I'll come tell you all about it in a second, but let me.
So just use the bathroom, get a beer. But yeah, no, it 100% has that that family, home, comfort feel for at least us.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was there. I just went there once when I came to visit you guys. It was the first place you wanted to take me. It was I had been in your house, but you were like, now let's go to my home. And he like drove us to BBC, and we sat down, and it was like I'd come in from New York City, so I haven't really gone out at all at that point, and so it's like weird to like be out again, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm fit. This is fine. This is normal. This is great. Like that was the feeling I had when I was there. So,
and that's great. And that honestly means the world. I mean, that's what we're going for, a welcoming space that's interesting, but where you can learn about craft beer, learn about different styles, enjoy yourselves. If you want to have a tap room conversation with our staff, great. If you just want to grab the beer and go sit and relax, you can do that too. Work in the different events, the different beer releases, make it an engaging space for a wide audience. But the hope is that it is your home away from home, right? And I appreciate the story about the long road trip too, because I know I definitely had that moment too with my wife Lindsay, where we're coming back from seeing my family up in Northern Virginia, or we've done like a weekend trip in Charlottesville or Richmond, and it's a Sunday and we're getting back, and we both know we got to be back to work on Monday morning, and I'm like, well, the brewery's open till 9. We could just go. And Lindsay's question to me is always, are you going to go and work, or are you going to go and relax? And it's a big key, because I do have a hard time relaxing when the brewery's busy, which is great to see. I have this mental block of being able to sit and enjoy it. I'm like, well, there's glassware over there. The staff's busy behind the bar. I'm going to run the glassware. I'm going to try to be helpful. It's like, it's hard for me to relax. So I feel like I stress people around me out, because I'm running around constantly moving glassware, answering questions, or jumping behind the bar. And the staff's like, leave us alone. You're slowing things down, man.
You're actually screwing it up for us. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny, when we were there with Bill, you were running beer around the tap room.
Oh my gosh, you were cleaning up glasses. You were like all over the place.
And I remember pointing it out to Phil. I was like, hey, that's Robby. I think we're going to have him on the show for this beer, because I just started talking with Lucy about it. And
I'm like, the busser? We're having on the guy who's cleaning glasses? Why?
It's it's just I'm happy to have the occasion to do it, and I know the staff doesn't expect me to do it, but I certainly am not above taking the trash out, running the glassware, that sort of thing, and so it is a fair question when I'm like, I do want to hang out there too, and it is a home away from home for me as well, and so Lindsay's very astute to say, okay, what's going on at the brewery right now? Is there live music? Is there a beer release? What's exactly, like, if we go there, are you going to be able to sit and have a beer with me and enjoy yourself 50-50, right? Or are you going to get up and start running the glassware, talking to people, reprinting menus, that sort of thing. So we like to make the same, like, end of the weekend, let's just go and have one more round to keep the weekend going type of thing. So I appreciate that other people feel the same way.
Absolutely. Yep. All right, let's roll that beautiful bean footage. What's the next question?
There we go.
We're also sponsored by Bush Bean. No, I'm just kidding. All right, so you definitely answered this already, but what year did Virginia Beer Company open? 2012,
I'm gonna
2005, 2016, or 49 AD?
It's a toss-up, but I'm going to go with C.
But I think you may know, but you're sure it's not 49 AD. I put this on D, Phil, because you normally pick D.
You just challenged my D choices.
Exactly.
Those have only been challenged so many times in life.
By your real father.
Well, I'm going to follow Tiffany then and go 2016 as well.
I mean, obviously, thank you, AJ.
Oh, it's my brother.
Finally, somebody went with 49 AD.
Oh, no. AJ, I haven't talked to you in fucking weeks. You're really slow.
All right, so obviously it's 2016. You mentioned that. The interesting part for me, though, is not necessarily the year that you opened, but how long before 2016 were you shopping the idea of opening?
And the correct answer to that question would be 49 AD.
Right.
Yeah. At least it felt that way. And I'm going to give you full credit. I don't know if you did it on purpose or not, but all four of those answers, 2016 is the answer. What year did we officially start pouring beer and selling beer? But man, we definitely have old school merch, some shirts and stickers with a logo that we didn't end up using that say established 2012.
Oh, wow.
So like we definitely, because we were like, oh, we should, even though the brewery's not open, the business plan has started. Chris and his wife Erin were the first to pull the trigger. They moved back to Williamsburg in 2012. So that's really where the full journey started. And so we did make some merch and some marketing apparel and imagery to start building out social media platforms and to showcase what the brand might look like that said established 2012. So we look back and laugh and we're like, well, how wrong were we? Because 4 years later, we finally opened.
It was very like presumptive of you. Like we're gonna do it. 2012. Let's go.
Yeah, again, there's a lot of accidental hubris. It was like 4 flagships. We've never sold a drop of liquid, but we have 4 flagships. Established 2012. We just quit our jobs and moved to Williamsburg. We have no money to open a brewery, no building, no brewer. We have test batches that we're brewing, but that's it. And we still spent time and money creating Established 2012 paraphernalia. So, it wasn't because we were so confident, but I think we were a little ahead of ourselves there. And going back even further, 2005 was an option. I graduated from William & Mary in 2005. And then the 49 AD, it felt like it was that long because I graduated in 05.
We needed an all of the above.
Seriously, I mean, that's so like I graduated in 05. I met Chris right before I graduated. He and his wife both graduated in 07. We stayed in touch. I came and futon surfed at his place quite often. The last 2 years he was here. Fell in love with craft beer at the Greenleaf here in Williamsburg. It was the craft beer spot. I mean, it was the only craft beer spot, right? So like Aleworks was open. Aleworks Brewing Company actually opened in 2000.
They're the oldest one in the state.
They are. So they're the oldest one in Williamsburg. Legend Brewery is a couple of years older than them.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Aleworks opened in 2000 as the Williamsburg Brewing Company, and then I think in 06 became Williamsburg Aleworks Brewing Company. Right. And obviously they've modernized over the years too. But at the time when Chris and I were in college, you could go in like 2006 when they kind of changed their branding and changed their focus a little bit to Williamsburg Aleworks. You could go and taste beer there and tour the brewery. You could buy beer to go, but you could not drink the beer there outside of the tastings. So the law changed in 2012 to allow for tap rooms without a restaurant. So Legend had a restaurant, right? So Legend was able to serve full pours, but not until 2012 could you have breweries like ours that don't have a restaurant and actually consume the beer on premise. So, you could go to Aleworks and check out the craft beer scene back in 06, but you couldn't hang out there and have a couple pints. The Greenleaf, though, had 40 taps, which is unheard of. So as college students, we're like, sure, let's go in there and work our way through 40 taps and see what happens. And we all have our gateway beers, but that's where it started for us. And then it just kind of progressed. Chris was in New York. I was in DC. I loved all the craft beer bars in DC. There was a ton of craft beer bars in New York, the Pony Bar, the Blind Tiger, Rattle and Hum, some great spots. Brooklyn Brewery was really getting going at that point. So I'd go visit him, take the Bolt bus up from DC, and we'd spend the whole weekend hitting breweries, hitting bars, trying beer, home brewing. He'd come down to DC. We'd randomly meet in different cities, Chicago, St. Louis, San Diego. Same thing. Every time we got together, it was beer, the occasional baseball game, more beer. And so one thing led to another, and we'd spend vacation time together. I was the best man in Chris and Aaron's wedding. And it was like, all right, like all we do is talk about beer. Whenever we travel, we bring cases of beer that we have found in our spare time to try to like one up each other and who found the coolest, most interesting, most delicious beer. We were both home brewing. Chris and his wife were much better homebrewers than I was. I think Aaron, his wife, was actually the home brewer for the two of them who excelled because she's a scientist.
Yeah.
I think Chris rode her coattails as he usually does, and my homebrews were absolute just disasters. I was too experimental and I didn't follow the recipe instructions and thought I was smarter than I was, and it's been a running theme probably for the past many years. So, but we had been working on the plan formally since 2009. That was kind of the first moment we were like, let's do it. And then in 2012, Chris left his job at JP Morgan. Aaron graduated from veterinary school. They relocated to Williamsburg, where we had decided that's where the story begins. Let's keep the story going in Williamsburg. That's our connection, our desire to support William & Mary, our desire to keep growing the Williamsburg community. Williamsburg, had Anheuser-Busch, had Aleworks, but we thought it could support more than one craft brewery. And so Chris and Aaron moved back in 2012. I had to wrap a few things up in Northern Virginia, moved back formally full-time in 2014. We were fundraising. We were creating a brand identity. We met Jonathan, our brewmaster. So he started homebrewing recipes for the Virginia Beer Company and joined us full-time in 2015. And then we finally opened in 2016. So it was quite a journey. We definitely put the cart before the horse a few times, and we'd never opened a brewery before. We didn't know any different, right? We thought it was going to be faster.
That's probably pretty normal.
Yeah. And our fundraising goals went from, a couple 100,000 to much more than that,
Oh, by the way, we need $1 million. We're in Williamsburg. This is expensive.
So we learned a lot, and the business plan adapted and changed, and our business relationship and our friendship adapted and changed. But I will say this, I think Lucy and Michael, Jonathan and I and Chris always joke that, it's a VBC decision because it takes forever to come up with the final decision. Because we have so much groupthink and so much Slack channel for everything and email chain for everything, so much groupthink in the office. Our annual manager meeting is turned into a quarterly manager meeting. But I think the groupthink makes the decisions better, not always perfect, but definitely better. And the fact that it took us 4 full years to open meant we launched with much better, I think, branding, higher quality beer, because Jonathan had so much time to homebrew, and we've been able to serve samples to the Williamsburg community and get feedback, and our branding developed from 2012 to 2016. And so I think we opened with a much more refined space and much more refined liquid and a much clearer message. And so even though we had to tweak the Freebirds recipe a little bit and tweak some of our other recipes here and there, we were still really proud of the liquid we opened with, and it's been consistent ever since. So did we want it to take 4 years? Absolutely not. But are we better off for it? Probably.
Sure. I was going to say, I think the time and energy spent in that is well worth the results.
Right. And I think it shows.
Exactly.
Honest, because, I mean, everything has been consistent since you've opened, and everything is very polished from like a customer side of things. So.
Yeah, it's funny because I know a lot of you guys, so I have to turn off a lot of things when I'm in there just to have a beer as well.
Right.
So I have to turn off like, oh, I know these people,
Sure.
or I've worked in the customer service industry, or I've done this or done this. How's everyone doing? No, I'm just like, let me just get a fucking beer and relax and enjoy this. And you guys have yet to let me down, which is good.
So you did mention that it takes you guys forever to make a decision. So I have to ask then, how long did it take to call yourselves the Virginia Beer Company?
Oh,
So
we had this.
It's so funny because like we get a lot. I think we go back and forth on the name. Obviously, we're proud of who we are and our branding. And there's so much nuance to like the logo and the shape and the style, the stylized lettering. So we had this piece of paper that we started writing name ideas down on one time at a group vacation we were on up in the Finger Lakes in upstate New York. And we started writing on it, and we let some of Chris's wife's family members who were with us write some ideas down. And probably like 50 ideas. And over the course of a year and a half, we would cross names off. We would circle names and then cross them off. And we kept working our way down. And there were 3 names at the end of the list after like 2 years. And one was just, we left it because it was so over the top and ridiculous. It was Chris's mother-in-law came up with it. She was like, you guys got to do something fanciful and fun to get people's attention. You should call this Willie Smith's Magical Elixirs. Right?
Honestly, if you can make me a hat, I will purchase it.
My last name, Chris's last name is Smith, Willie Smith's Magical Elixirs. I'm not even sure it would technically be legal because there are very specific laws about how you can market alcohol. And I think calling it a magical elixir as your brand name would probably be a non-starter.
Yeah, only the leprechaun from Lucky Charms can use that regalia.
And we do talk about the accidental hubris, flagships, and things like that. But Chris and I try to be humble, and I think the idea of putting either of our names at the top of the list was was a non-starter, even if it had been a more serious name. So we kept that there, and I still laugh about it. And then the other name that was almost the name of the brewery was the Liberty Tree Brewing Company.
Interesting.
So we thought about like Virginia is a very historical commonwealth. We didn't want to lean into colonial Williamsburg, but we thought that there was something there. And the idea that's amazing. I love it.
Where's the dogs?
The best part about that is like you could have pretended that was like a green screen behind you, and I would have had no idea. If I didn't know you were in the garage, I would have assumed you were in your green screen.
That may be the best thing that's ever happened.
That scared the hell out of me. I didn't know what was going on. I can't hear anything with these headphones on, so I just all of a sudden the door started opening.
I didn't know. I looked around here because I didn't know if it was happening in my house or Daniel and Tiffany's. So I
always think the same thing. I'm like, oh, the kids are up.
I thought maybe that was your hook moment. Like, all right, shut up about the name of the brewery. Let's move on. So
yeah.
I will say quickly, the Liberty Tree Brewing Company was the idea was that it's where Patrick Henry gave his "Give Me Liberty" or "Give Me Death" speech under the Liberty Tree, and then Chris, even though he will not play for a single soul, Chris and I were in a very not often seen band in college, and Chris is an incredibly talented.
You're damn.
Chris is an incredibly talented guitar player. Chris can play guitar, banjo, mandolin, like anything with strings. Chris is incredible at it, but he does not like to perform in public. But I have seen him play. We have played together as a band. I've seen him play casually when he's like bored at home. He's incredible, so talented. And Liberty Tree guitars are made from a specific type of wood, and so that was kind of an homage to his background. So we ended up going with Virginia Beer Company in part because Aaron, Chris's wife, was like, "Are you guys idiots? That name is available. It's an open palette, right? It's an open canvas. Like it's powerful. It feels vintage." But it also gives you freedom to branch off your branding. It doesn't have to be Virginia focused. It can be whatever you want under the guise of Virginia Beer Co. So she was right, and it's been a great kind of flagship for us. The shape of the logo, is the Chesapeake Bay Dead Rise,
right?
Which state boat of Virginia, and the way that Virginia curves, it's actually the arc of the Crimdale Bridge, which is a bridge on William & Mary's campus. So it's got some state imagery. It's got some. And then it's meant to look like an old gasoline sign, because our building used to be an old auto body shop. So it's got like hyper local, state. So it's not the most exciting name in the world, but it's definitely, I think, a powerful name.
Well, and I think it's rooted in exactly what you wanted the name to be, which is all that honestly matters. Because I have a long-standing theory of no matter where I go, if the beer is good, everything else follows suit. Like, if the beer is good, I'll buy your merch. If the beer is good, I'll be back. If the beer is good, like, I'm a brewery person. I'll go to a brewery.
You're what?
I remember when I think we had the conversation, Daniel, when we were at the brewery, where I was like, "This has been here forever, right?" And you were like, "No, not like it's 2016 or whatever." I was like, "How the hell did they get that name?"
Right.
And I remember being like, "That name is
that wasn't
how is no one in Virginia came up with this name." So that's why I was like. I just kind of laughed at like the second I would have like typed that in as like a joke as I was searching for like what's available.
I'd have gone on GoDaddy.com and been like, "Oh, is this available?"
Like, yeah, I'm thinking like, "No way is this going to be," and then I've been like, "Oh, I guess that's it." Like,
and that was part of it for us though. We did the same thing though. It was an idea on that piece of paper, narrowed down to Liberty Tree and Virginia Beer Company, and then it was like, are we sure this is available? Like check trademarks, check business licenses, check Twitter at Virginia Beer Co, check Instagram, which was just coming along. Like, and it was all there.
Some jerk has that handle on Instagram, and you're just gonna have to like buy it from them.
I know. we do get the occasional like Virginia Beer Co.beer. Would you like to buy this? And I'm like, not at this time. We got enough Virginia Beer Co beer. We don't need a website. Virginia Beer Co beer too. Yeah, we're fine. We're good.
Yeah.
And I'm purchasing it now.
Yeah, exactly. Fill just your whole world up. So I think we have one more trivia question that you've already answered, but I do. Wait, go to not the last trivia question, but the second to last.
There you go.
If you go back and edit this video, you'll have to put spoilers every time I talk.
Oh no, so it's not this one. This one is interesting to me though, because you guys are distributed in 2 states in the United States, but in multiple countries, which is crazy to me.
Well, thanks for giving it away, Daniel.
I told you I'm trying to speed through. So go to the next question, Phil.
The next question was
the guesser.
This is my favorite because you already answered this one, but I really wanted it to be a Richmond rave or a high stakes poker table in Cincinnati, Ohio.
Because you really wanted to be the 2 that would have never been guessed.
I just wanted a middle school in Lincoln, Nebraska, who didn't meet their best friend there. That's understood. But a Richmond rave and a high stakes poker table seemed like a way better place to be like, you know where I met my business partner? A high stakes poker table in Cincinnati, Ohio.
We split the pot.
Right.
There's definitely probably a more interesting story there, as opposed to like the 2 of us having met at a student phoning job at William & Mary and becoming fast friends. But I will say that knowing that we were in a band, a Richmond rave, could have been the real story.
I love it.
We did perform together.
The band, Richmond Rave. Y'all only played on the weekend. So Robby, we're gonna let you go. We have a couple other like regular show things to do, but thank you so much for being on.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's been a pleasure to chat with you. I mean, I've chatted with you multiple times over the years, but not to this degree. And it's been great.
Too busy with all the cups.
True story. What else do you have coming up within the brewery or within any of the causes that you guys support on a regular basis? What else is coming down the tube that you'd like to pitch?
Yeah, so we're constantly doing can releases for causes. We really pivoted during the pandemic. We were very fortunate to be able to keep all of our staff with us and find creative ways to keep them busy when the tap room was closed. And so we've been able to really pivot. We went in 2019 brewing and canning like 50 styles to in 2020 releasing almost 150 styles in cans. So we're fortunate to have our own canning line, the resources available to keep the team going, keep people interested in what was going on. The community was incredibly supportive. So we were lucky to be able to give back. And so we've just really doubled down on that model. So, we've got a couple, we just wrapped up our can release that was sponsoring Dream Catchers. We were hosting an event tonight with Fetch a Cure to raise money for pet cancer research. And so we're going to do something this fall with Here for the Girls, which is a breast cancer survivor group, young breast cancer survivors specifically. So we sponsor their golf tournament every year, and we've never actually brewed a beer for them. So we're definitely going to be brewing a beer for them. We teamed up with House of Mercy last year to help raise awareness for the incredible amount of food that they provide for our community, for those in need. And so we're going to be doubling down on our work with them and try to get ahead of it so that it's not just in the wintertime, but it's more ongoing, something we're working on with Williamsburg area Meals on Wheels too. So we've got a ton of kind of community focused can releases and events. I know Courtney, our sales field rep for the Hampton Roads area, is really passionate about Hospice House, and she and her husband Paul, is a really talented musician, are planning a big jam fest for Hospice House later this fall. So for us, it's kind of getting back to business as usual with an asterisk, right? It's like we're not quite out of the pandemic, but we're getting there. People are getting vaccinated. We're feeling good about things. So live music's back 3 nights a week. Trivia's back on Thursdays. The can releases 2 to 3 every single week. Hopefully for the rest of the year, if things go well, we've got 3 this weekend, a white IPA, a 3% hazy IPA. Super interesting, trying to do these low alcohol hazy IPAs, still have body, but they're super sessionable. They're not thin, they're not watery. And then an American IPA with Mosaic and Cashmere and Nelson hops. So, trying to keep the taps full and keep people entertained in the tap room and just, making sure people are comfortable and feeling good about the beers and cheers. So we're always trying to keep things positive and community focused. And we appreciate you guys being a part of our community. Daniel, you support us personally and professionally, and Tiffany, obviously you as well. And Phil, looking forward to hopefully when you're done traversing the country, if you ever leave Telluride, come back to Williamsburg or we'll meet up in New York or something and have a round. So I look forward to it.
I will be back, but I ain't never leaving Telluride. So no, I will definitely be back because I will be visiting them very often, I'm sure. So,
well, thank you all for your support and thank you for having me. Thank you for having Lucy on. We would be happy to do it anytime if you ever want to. I think you already did a show from the brewery, right? Didn't you do one from the back of the brewery?
Yeah, we did one from the back for your International Hype Unit release.
Yeah.
But and the table beer.
Oh yeah, the table beer was good too.
Cool.
That was fantastic.
Yeah, definitely a classic traditional style that no one cared about.
I loved it.
Yeah.
A 2% table beer was something like the whole staff was super excited about. Our brewmaster was all for it. Traditional, and it's the kind of beer that takes a lot of explaining. Why is there a 2% beer on your menu? I promise it's good. Try it. But unless we served it in like 80-ounce pours, people were just not that excited.
It had to be the yard house. It had to come in 3-foot glass, and you just.
A straw straight into the keg was the one thing that would have kept that beer flowing, I think. But we tried it, and we'll keep doing those classic styles to go along with the more popular stuff, the fruity stuff and the hoppy stuff, find the balance. But no matter what, we will always brew free brewers, so that will always be there.
And it's one of my favorites.
Well, we'll be fangirls whenever you need someone to hype up your 2% beers.
Yeah.
So let us know.
We might need it with the 3% beer, which is coming out. So we'll keep that in mind. It's called Photo Finish, an Olympic themed beer, just in time for the Tokyo Olympics. So it's good. It's well, I have to say that right, but I think it's good.
Well,
if you're like, by the way, it's terrible, I'd be like, you invited the wrong person on your
Although I'd have to try it. Right.
He's
still releasing it.
I'll say anything after 2 free verses. My God.
That's why I stopped at 1. I was like, nope, 2 beer Tiffany is not going to be.
Also, how my business got started.
But thank you again for having us. We really appreciate it.
Hey, man, we really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Cheers. Thank you so much. And we'll see you probably Sunday.
I look forward to it. Yeah, we'll close out the brew together.
Thanks, sounds good.
Cheers, y'all.
Bye.
Cheers.
All right.
Awesome.
Fantastic. I know.
Yeah, I love it.
I'm always so excited when we have a guest that is like such an active participant. It's
Correct.
my favorite because it's so easy to just sit here and like hang out. Anyway, kudos to Robby.
True story.
Yeah,
And I
absolutely.
love that Michael, who's their sales rep, that he was like
Yes.
from the onset. Chris, who's the other co-owner, would be having a panic attack in the corner of a Richmond raid. It's the best comment ever because I have met him, and that is 100% true.
Yeah. Not as big, which is fine. It's not mine either.
Also, by the way, we're at 55 minutes, so here's what's going to happen. We've all had this beer.
Yeah.
Tiffany and I both gave it a 4. Phil, I think you gave it a 4.25.
Right.
I did.
I actually might be, so long story short, I think I'm going to change my rating scale.
No.
So I might be changing this one because I believe in edits, which is why.
We'll bring that up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not my first
We'll go
husband.
back.
I can edit.
Well, I mean,
Well, you can, but our show you should have edited before the show.
boy, that makes me nervous
I just-
that you're so apt to edit. And I'm just kidding.
And Daniel is no longer a part of the show.
So Phil, how you do?
Phil,
I'll
number
move
one.
right in, Daniel. I will.
First of all,
I'm not afraid to.
I love this entire show mainly because the garage door opened behind you.
We were waiting for it. You knew it had last show in the garage. It had to happen.
I just love that the garage door opened behind you. Someone ran out and I think asked you where the dog was.
Yeah.
Like he looked directly at you. Where's the dog? Like you don't have earbuds in or in the middle of something.
It had to happen.
Dude, that was the most exciting thing that's ever happened.
And I'm sitting here going like something's happening. Like why else would they come out
You
here?
hit the nail on the head. You're out of this band. You're fucking fired, Bob.
Clean out your stuff in the country club because you are.
fucking fired. I love it. Just make sure you section off that clip and put it somewhere because it was too good.
Why are all the embarrassing clips that are going up of me? Because I'm doing all the embarrassing things.
It
Right?
happens.
Yeah.
Usually it's just me talking about Tiffany's vagina, but every now and again a garage door opens behind you, and that is way funnier.
I just love the look of like shock and confusion also on their faces as much as mine was giving to them. It was like this, we can't talk about it because I have something to do.
Right.
And I'm like, where are you going? I thought they had to get in this Honda Odyssey,
I
this
gotta
great
bring it
Honda
back.
Odyssey that can fit like 8-9 kids in it. Honda Odyssey.
I gotta take the hose out of this muffler of this running Honda Odyssey and try to walk out of here now.
I gotta push this generator, which we won't name, but
It's a shit brand.
If you're suicidal, there are hotlines.
True story.
I will cover that in another episode because we do have that beer.
So, but
Just
we
to
gave
be
this
sensitive.
competitively. We gave it a 4 on the show beer.
Yes.
the show between the three of us, it ends up being a 4. Correct.
Correct. Also, it's a below 7% IPA, which is perfect.
Yep.
Yeah.
It is very drinkable.
And once again, 4 is a excellent score especially in this realm of our, I know
Right.
some people score differently on Untappd, but for us, a 4 is a very excellent score.
Agreed.
Because anything over 3 is we're going to drink it again. But if it hits the 4, that is like a.
I've had 3 during this show.
Well,
I know it shows. Whatever.
I'm surprised you didn't try to push the 2-beer Tiffany name on him while he was on the show. He seems like he's
It's already in an email. I've been working.
with nudes.
I've been
No.
Two beers, two
It's actually
with
him
news.
nude.
Yeah.
I don't send those. The internet is too powerful.
True story.
Then I don't know what you've been sending me.
It's Daniel, actually. I'm sad
That's
you
actually
didn't
just me.
recognize, but
I know you know it.
It's our 3-way Snapchat that we've got going. We just send
Let's
those.
not say 3-way Snapchat. Maybe
I just said it.
group Snapchat. That
Nope.
sounds worse. Yeah.
Nope. Too late. It's
Yeah.
live.
great. All right. Well, what do you wish was beer?
Well, I had a whole another car rental thing. I'm bringing it in. But that's it. I'm doing it again because it deserves it because I had such a terrible experience today. That's why the show started like 10 seconds later than usual today, and it's because of them. So that's about it.
That's okay. I had a similar week. I literally tweeted about it.
Well, if you tweeted about it, it must have been so serious.
I literally called them out, and then I tagged all the other car rental places of like, I have $600 American. Do you want my damn business? Because I'm so upset. I had a clown car. It was also a smoker vehicle, and it wasn't gonna work. And I'm supposed to have this rental for 2 weeks because my car's in the shop. Anyway, that wasn't gonna be my thing because I felt like it was kind of like it was just, I don't know. Anyway, insensitive of me because I know there's like a rental shortage. And,
yeah, that's what they all say. But then you pay extra money because of the rental shortage, which is supposed to cover getting me a car.
I just love how insensitive it is. There's nothing else going in the world. It's really insensitive of me to pay money to get a car when there's a car shortage going on. That's not insensitive.
Extra money.
Thank you. Let's go down the rabbit hole of car rental.
No, mine is that I have a splinter in this finger and it's been there for like 2 days and I can't get rid of it and it's not pushing its way out and it hurts. It hurts to type and I gotta type for work.
I'm having another free verse. I don't know
like
what you guys
take
are
notes
doing.
and send
Daniel,
emails.
what's your wish you were beer?
Mine is very simple.
Wait, hold on.
You gotta rent one. You gotta rent one goddamn car. You don't even know how the show works anymore.
Well, that's the whole thing threw me off. Robbie was so good.
I'm sorry. I sprung on you because I was just like, it has been an hour. People don't want to watch this shit for that long. And for those of you who are,
and yet we have the most viewers we've ever had ever. So maybe they want to hear this.
Robbie's got a big
wait, nope. Now we have 0. Okay.
Yep, done.
For once, my brother decided to care about
just
me.
like Dogecoin.
Oh,
Dogecoin.
Okay.
To the moon.
Honestly, this is the part of the show where we talk about what we wish was beer that wasn't actually beer because it's just something else to talk about besides beer. Go.
Well, now you confused me. I had one, but now I don't know if it fits the criteria.
Splinter.
No.
On my finger.
I wish old people in rich neighborhoods that don't wave to me when I drive by them were beer. Because nothing pisses me off more than going through a nice neighborhood. I'm in a lettered work vehicle, and some old lady is walking her stupid fucking Ewok dog and is worried about how fast I'm going. And then I raise my hand to let her know, hey, I see you. I'm going the right speed. I apologize if you thought it was too fast. You're not a radar gun. I have a speedometer here. I'm doing the right. And they don't even wave at me and just completely ignore me as a human being.
People do that in our own neighborhood, though.
I know that.
Which, anyway.
You know what that reminds me of, though?
What?
What was the commercial? It was like an old commercial that had the frogs, and
Budweiser?
They would.
Budweiser's a friend of mine. Friend of mine is a friend of mine.
Walked right into it. Yes.
I just love it. You're trying to say that.
I was like,
Tiffany knew it.
I saw you coming. I was like, oh yeah, I got this.
I love
it had nothing to do with Daniel's waving story. Couldn't even get creative on it.
You don't even have to. You can play that clip whenever you want. It's that exciting every time. I was immediately glued to the computer like it was Little Orphan Annie from the radio era. Like, what's happening? Oh, I see it now.
Get your decoder ring.
Right, get your decoder ring.
I'm just really happy I found that song/clip we were doing America Week because that was a fantastic song. For those of you who have not watched that episode, go back a couple weeks. It's great. We America'd out.
So all that being said, what are we doing next week?
Next week,
we're doing a Beale's beer.
Are we?
Yeah, we are.
We're doing Your Manager is Bitch.
Oh yeah.
Your manager is a bitch.
No, it's Your Manager is Bitch.
Yeah, on the can it says Your Manager is Bitch.
Well, then I have the wrong text in there, but think about it. I've got to fix a lot of things. Oh, jeez.
I'm excited for this.
Now you're a bitch. No.
Beale's is about to open a tap room right down the street from us.
Yep. It'll be our closest brewery.
It'll be our closest brewery,
and
technically.
I'm very excited. We've had a couple of their beers because they do distribute locally as well. And they've been solid within whatever vein they're trying to hit in. So I'm excited. Oh, look at you fixing it.
I already fixed it. God.
Proud of you.
You guys could never do this part of the job.
No.
I'm just
That's why when
excited
you almost didn't show up, I was like, oh God, what do I do?
for next week. The only thing that excites me more than anything else is the fact that we're going to reach out to Beals, and if they don't respond, I'm going to tell them their manager is big.
It's perfect.
That is all. Like,
Yeah.
It's great.
So that being said, please, it's been an hour and 5 minutes.
Right.
Yeah.
Make sure, thank you again to Robby and Virginia Beer Company. They're always great to us, and he was great to be on here and to give us some of his time, and extremely well versed as a brewery and business person, which is amazing.
Yep.
We are doing a Beale's beer next week, which Beale's is pretty well distributed, so you
At
should.
least within Virginia. I don't know.
No, it's all over the place.
Really?
Yeah.
I've not checked their stuff
Just
yet.
try to at least find a Beale's beer. I don't know if this one you'll be able to find necessarily.
And once again, if you can't find it, grab a beer and come join us anyway.
Sure.
Yeah.
Tell us what you're drinking so we can at least cheers you and then carry on with your day.
True story.
Or
Make
night.
sure you like, subscribe. Make sure you follow us on Instagram. Make sure you write Phil love stories.
Yes. It's
Songs
very-
are preferred, but stories are fine.
Songs are preferred, but stories are fine.
And remember, it was nude week this week, so
So keep them stories interesting.
just saying.
No, but seriously, thank you all you guys for stopping by and hanging out with us for as long as you did, because good Lord, Phil's garage door opened. That's when I would have left as a person.
I'm like,
But
wow, these are not
Wow.
professionals. As if literally nothing beforehand would have set off that we were not professionals.
I love that was the marker.
Budweiser's a friend of mine. Friend of mine is a friend of mine.
All right. Well,
So cheers, everybody.
cheers to everyone.
Keep up on the account. Follow us throughout the week. We do try to post videos of us just checking in beer or going to different breweries or anything we feel like putting on the website. Check it out. Also follow Tiffany on Instagram because she runs it. Let's not get
Yeah,
involved.
not this week. This week I was knee deep in meetings until like 6 o'clock every day. So
Big
by
day.
the end of the day, I wanted nothing to do with a computer or a phone
Fair.
or
Well, next week we got a new background. We'll be in Colorado. We'll see what's going to happen there.
we're gonna re-wallpaper over this just so we've got a new.
I love that
background.
we're gonna change our background too.
Might as well.
Just
We're gonna
cover it
pretend
up.
we're Until You Right as well.
Well,
All right.
behind us.
I'm excited for next week's beer.
Me too, bud.
All right.
Rich.
Well, take care. Cheers, everyone.
Be safe.